I'm taking you out of the scrub below, spot your plateaus where the cold wind blows. One step higher every week we go, turning little wins into more 5-0.
Hello and welcome to the Legacy Scrublands podcast, the podcast where we take you out of scrub lows, past plateaus, and into more 5-0s each week. I am Kyle, and with me is my co-host, the bad man with the bad lands, our spike on the mic, Adam. Adam, how's it going, man?
Doing well, my friend. That's one type of introduction. Thank you so much. So yeah, I'm excited to be here today.
Yeah, well, we have got, I think, a pretty cool podcast set up. We're going to be talking about 5 ways to improve at Magic the Gathering. And with you being one of the spikiest spikes, best players I know, I figured this would be the perfect topic for us to kind of get kickstarted with. So I'm excited to hear what you have to say and take some notes as you kind of go over some things. And I'll be happy to give some of my insights that I've picked up along the way and how I've tried to improve my play as well. But before we jump in to our ways of improving at Magic the Gathering, I've got a filthy casual question of the week for you. So Adam, if you are ready. All right. So have you seen Jurassic World, right? It's a dinosaur movie.
A while ago.
Right?
A while ago.
Okay. So if you remember, right, there's like they go to the park, they get in these like little, basically like hamster balls, and they can run all over the park, right?
Yeah. Yep.
So my question for you is, if we could put you in this protective hamster ball and release you into the Magic world, what Magic plane do you think that you would want to explore from the safety of a hamster ball?
Wow, that is a question.
Yeah, man. You gotta be ready. These are the crazy. Yeah,
So,
we're asking you how to get better
would-
at Magic, and we're also asking for
All right,
ridiculous
so
hot
I
takes.
like to go back into my memories, and one of the most memorable areas for me is Mirrodin. So that block is, if I want to call it a block, so that original plane is the new Phyrexia. And I think that area just has some of the coolest creatures. I don't know why. Maybe it's just like as a child, playing with those cards, you just enjoyed and have a little infect in you.
Okay.
And have little artifacts. I don't know. I like it a lot, though. How about yourself?
I am gonna stick to, I think, kind of like the dinosaur Jurassic Park theme. I think, go back to like the Ixalan block where they've got like it's dinosaurs and merfolk and like the vampires, and just it's kind of like a crazy like civil war between all of it, and to just kind of like explore what I think is kind of like a cool prehistoric type of world and see all these sick dinosaurs. Also see kind of like an action movie unfold before you from the safety.
I remember like looking at that set and I was like, how do they put vampires, pirates, and dinosaurs under
It's
one?
insane. No, it's a crazy place. It doesn't make sense, but just to kind of like go, you know what I mean? I feel like it'd be basically, I'm looking at this as a Jurassic Park experience, but then I'm also, it's also kind of like a crazy amusement park that like doesn't make sense that these things belong together. So I'm just gonna kind of like watch that play out, and I think it'd be pretty sick.
No, that's fun. I like that a lot.
All right, man. So with the filthy casual question of the week out of the way, by the way, if you are interested in asking us a filthy casual question, be sure to send us an email. We can drop our information below or in the podcast notes. So keep that in mind if you want to get your filthy casual question read on the show. But without further ado, Adam, let's jump into our top 5 ways at improving at Magic the Gathering. So do you want to take the first one off for us and we'll kind of go through what your thoughts are? So.
All right, so mine is the easiest one you can imagine. You probably heard this 1,000 times from other players or even kind of thought yourself, and it's, practice makes perfect. And so this is definitely if you want to go to a really competitive event. And so I'm not talking about your just F&M. I'm not even talking about like maybe a monthly tournament. I'm talking about you going to Eternal Weekend or EW this year, or you're going to the Oklahoma Land Run. This is kind of what you need to do. You need to practice that deck 100+ matches. I'm not even kidding, over 100 matches. So when you do this, you one just get the repetition of just fully understanding your deck. You want to make sure that you understand where your outs are. And so outs are just like what cards can you do top deck to that gives you that win? And what's the path of victory to get there? If you don't have that 100 reps, then you don't have the full understanding of your list and what your deck can and cannot do. In addition, it's when you're playing lots of different decks, you get to see what both sides are doing. And what I think is even better is if, let's just say I am playing Reanimator's my deck of choice. If I'm going against Burn, right? I know some people are playing Burn in our local meta. If I don't understand that matchup, I want to practice it, me being on the Reanimator side. And also, I think what's best is if you're practicing on the other end. So you play the Burn deck, and then you try to get that experience as the opponent's playing playing Reanimator. In turn, you allow yourself to kind of see where the gaps are as like where your strengths are against the matchup and where your weaknesses, and you can kind of take advantage of that.
Okay. Can I ask kind of a follow-up to this, right?
Of course.
So if we're looking, and I love the concept of, I love the idea of like being a deck specialist. And again, like some people I feel like they're great. They can pick up decks and they can do pretty well with them. But like to your point, really finding a deck that you love and you're just like wanting to put all the time in, at what point do you feel like you have a general grasp of the deck of your choice to where you're like, okay, now I kind of want to go jump to these other decks to see how my matchup is played from the other side versus just like really, does that make sense? Like sometimes I feel like I'll jump into a deck and I don't even know if I'm trying to pick it up for the first time. I don't even know what questions I want to be asking. So I want to kind of like focus. Does that make sense? Like let me get X amount of things where I feel good about it to then, okay, now that I'm having trouble with this matchup, I switch. Like what point do you feel like,
so
does that make sense? Like,
sure. So what I think matters most is looking at the data. My background's and I'm a scientist in the background, neuroscientist, and what always we go to is the data. And so when you look at 100 matches, it's good to record the information. Once you record it, you can actually see over time what your good matchups are and your bad matchups are. Once you have about at least 5, I would say you should have more, but at least 5, you start noticing in that matchup. Let's just say Dimir, is it Dimir? Dimir Tempo. Let's just say that is the matchup you have 5 matches on, and you lose every single time. At that point, I want to go really kind of delve into that matchup and see what am I doing wrong? Is it my deck choice? Is it my own play style? Is my opponent's just better than me? What's happening in that area? So I'd say at least 5 times for that specific matchup when you look at all the data, and then you can kind of keep practicing it.
Okay, awesome. Well, you brought up a really cool point, and I kind of want to hear your take because again, you are kind of our data spike on the mic guy, but one of our big things that we have for our second point was tracking wins and losses and like kind of tracking the data. What does that tracking look like? What are the things that you were trying to focus on? I'm sure obviously it's going to be like I played against Dimir,
Dimir.
Yes. Well, I'm playing against Dimir Tempo, right? And like I'm tracking those matchups of whether I won or lost, but like what else are you kind of looking at? Are you looking at like what kind of hand am I keeping? Am I looking at play draw? Am I looking at like what things they played that led to the wins and losses? So like if I'm looking at that Dimir Tempo matchup, I'll look at that from like I enjoy playing Death and Taxes and I feel really strong about that matchup. But I know that there's going to be cards like, so if they play a Kaito, that is a card where I'm like, oh no, I do not want to see that. Because I would imagine if they're looking at the statistics on their other end, they're like, if I get a Kaito in play, my percentage of beating Death and Taxes goes up however many percentage, right? So I'm curious, like, what are the things that you feel are the most important to be tracking other than just wins and losses?
Perfect. And so this will go into our number 2 most important thing. And so again, this is watching your matches back and understanding the matchup. And so with tracking, there's a few things I like to record. So one is obviously your win-loss percentage against like your matches. So I have a spreadsheet, and this spreadsheet will be available to our premier subscribers in the future. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. And they will have access to a spreadsheet where you can literally see all your matches, and you can see like what you're playing against. But what's going to be really important too is play versus draw. So this is one thing that a lot of if you use websites, one thing that they miss a lot is again play draw. So it's very known in the Magic community that the play draw matters a lot. If you're on the play, you have, I forget the stat, but it depends on the format, but there was at least like a 5% increase in win percentage compared to being on the draw. So your wins and losses you should keep track of. So am I winning more on the play? Obviously should be yes. And then if I'm losing more on the draw, like what's happening? Can you change those? Should you change your sideboard depending on your win and losses? So I think including like what you're playing against, but adding your the draw versus play, that is going to determine the best results for you.
Okay. So the draw versus play, obviously big. Focusing less, I guess, on like what's in your hand, what's in your opponent's hand is not.
I always take notes at the end of what was the hallmark event that let me lose or win that match. So let's just say, I always try to avoid my opponent got lucky. I know I always make that joke to myself.
No,
like, I'm
absolutely.
just a lucky player.
Yeah.
Like never leave it just like, oh, they're lucky and they're good. What happened? Did they turn one just beat me? Is that what's happening where like I can't even respond because I have no force of will? Or was it a long match and I was out resourced? Right. So it's making some notes of what happened in that match to distinguish what you could have done differently. And I think that matters a lot.
Okay. Well, I feel like that kind of man, it's touching on the third point, I think, pretty well. So you're talking about looking back at the end of the matchup and saying like what happened. And again, I am absolutely with you. I don't like the I bad beat story. My opponent had the nuts. This like obviously that happens sometimes, but trying our best to figure out ways that we could have played differently or viewed the matchup differently. So I'm all about that, and I love that take. So one of the things that we talked about off the air was just talking to people that are better than you. And I think also that goes along with like asking your opponent after the match, like what, if they're willing
100%.
to share, if they're willing to share some information, like, I don't know, there's been times where it's like, hey, I turn one Thoughtseize and I took X, like, do you feel like that was the right play? I think we had that conversation in a recent match with like, hey, I named this off of a Cabal. Like, do you like that or no? And we had like kind of a back and forth about it. So I think that plays really well into kind of what you mentioned of just like thinking back over the match, but doing
this
that
is
with
where
your
this
opponent.
is my biggest downfall of me playing Magic. I'm like way too nice, and I tell my opponents exactly how to beat me. And then they'd like, and then then the next time they're like, oh yeah, I'm actually going to name the show and tell, or I'm going to do this. And now I'm going 0-2 like a true king, a true legend. And so, which I love to see. I love to see my friends really improve. And that's one thing I try working with people is I really do want to support them and show them the sideboard, like, hey, what comes in and comes out. Obviously I try like if they're interested. I'm not going to be like, hey, you lost because you did this, right? It's like if they ask for advice, I will obviously give it to them. But I definitely agree. I think talking with your opponent afterwards, trying to have that dialogue. One, it's better that you network a lot because you actually get to talk to somebody. But just they know the matchup because they probably beat you if you're asking. So
right.
So you can get their feedback, and 9 times out of 10, they're gonna give you an honest response.
Okay. Well, I know that you're big in, and this is genuine curiosity. You are a pretty seasoned MTGO grinder, right? And I'm rather new to the MTGO scene and trying to get a better handle of it. There's been a couple of times where like I'll message, other than the GLHF, like good luck, have fun. How often do you message opponents after matches and kind of discuss things? Is MTGO, do you feel like that's a bit too grindy that maybe you're not going to get as much like positive feedback? Or do you think like do you think like our listeners should take the concept of like, hey, like reach out to them and like maybe they say go kick rocks, but in your experience, do you feel like you see more positive dialogue, or do you feel like you get a little bit more kick rocks from the
Sure.
online?
So it depends, like most things. If I
Yeah,
win the match, I am not asking my opponent for the feedback
sure.
because
Yeah.
they're just gonna leave right away, right? Like people get frustrated, they're just going to exit and they're
Hmm.
not gonna look at your message, so it's not worth your time.
Yeah.
What generally happens is if you say, good luck, have fun in the beginning of the match, and they don't say anything, I probably still wouldn't act like, if they want to be
Sure.
shy, that's fine. Like
Sure.
that's like they could do that. But if I have an opponent that's very friendly, like I say, good luck, have fun, and they respond back, and there's talk amongst the match itself, and you lose, then I'm more open to before you hit the concede button, just being like, hey, GG, do you mind if I ask you this on that? And I've had people ask me a lot too. Like, actually, it was just last week. There was a show and tell player who he's like, was it correct to force your dark ritual, or should I just have forced like the next spell because he didn't know obviously what was in my hand? And I told him
Right.
the straight up answer. And that was a good dialogue. I think that was an appropriate way for him
Okay.
to answer. And he's like, now I know for the future. And so
Okay.
I wish him the best. Now I don't want to
Yeah.
play it because he knows exactly how to play against me.
Let me
Um,
ask, does he force the dark writ next time?
he no, so he thought again, it's getting a little complicated, but he thought that if he forces the dark ritual, he prevents me of my outs of you can edit this out. That
No,
16
like kind of
minutes.
double spelling, right? Like,
No, hold on.
I mean, yeah,
16.
you're good. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay, 3, 2, 1. It was the card Collective Brutality. So with Collective Brutality, I have the option of obviously bending something automatically, and then I can like reanimate twice because I had 3 cards in my hand. And I was like, no, man, like let me have the spell because I'm much more likely to have show and tell. I have 4 show and tells in my list, and that's more likely to happen versus me having 2 very specific cards, right? Like Collective Brutality plus 2 reanimation
Yeah.
spells. It was very unlikely for
Mhm.
me to have that, and that's where I think, like again, it's just a general rule. You never want to force the dark ritual. You always 9 times out
Right.
of 10, unless it's a specific circumstance, you force the follow up spell.
Absolutely. And that's kind of what I was thinking. And then I was like second guessing, like, wait a minute, is this the secret tech where I've been like thinking always force the second thing? Okay, just making sure that I'm on the same page. Um, okay, cool. Well, kind of talking with I guess like my take with again, and I'm pretty limited with the MTGO experience. I'm trying to get better at it, trying to jump in more. I feel like there's been times where like I'll message my opponent like in the game, like as it's going on, just be like, hey, do you mind if I ask you a question at the end of the match? And like at times they'll be like, what the hell do you want? And I'm like,
By the way,
oh, no.
Kyle's way more social than I ever am. I like rarely message people at MTGO. In person, I'm a
Yeah.
very friendly person, but like MTGO, I do my thing and just grind.
Well, I feel like they're a little thrown off. And that's why I wasn't sure if it like, if I'll walk into MTGO being like, everyone's super social, right? Like, isn't everybody super nice? And so, um, I'll try to reach out and just be like, hey, like, do you mind if I ask you a question? Like, I've had people kind of like a little, like apprehensive at first, and then I'm like, no, generally, like, I'm curious about like, what's your take on this matchup, or like, what's your take on, and so they're like, oh. Okay, so like they kind of like ease off from there, but like I don't know. I'll try to catch them. I think like at some point in the match, if I know especially it's a matchup that I'm maybe struggling with, or if it's a matchup um, that I haven't, maybe like to your point earlier, like maybe I haven't gotten all 5 matches with it, but it's like the first time that I'm seeing this deck or it's something like that. I'm like, man, this is a little new. This is a little weird. And if I could spend an extra 3 minutes and try to understand that matchup better going into the next one. Like, I'd rather get some information after my first match playing against the deck than have to like smash my head against the wall 5 times and then be like, okay,
Yeah.
let me play it from the other side. So, no, that's a fair point. Well, again, with I guess asking people online, still kind of part of talking people that are better than you, and I really like this one, which is joining discords and asking questions. Like, I love that the fact that there are a bunch of legacy discords for different archetypes of decks. And so like I'm obviously going to jump into the Death and Taxes one. I'm going to jump into like the Merfolk Merfolk one, or like the Loam one, or the Is It Delver. Like if I want to learn more about the deck, I'm absolutely going to lurk and see what resources they have there. And beyond that, just like trying to ask some people, hey, like what's your sideboard guide? Hey, what's your take with this match? Like, hey, what do you think about this card? Things like that. And I think for the most part, people love talking about the deck, especially if they're
Oh,
like
yeah.
a deck specialist, right? Like
if
you're
if
just
they
like,
spend the time to get onto that Discord, they love the deck. They're totally good for
Right.
talking about it.
absolutely. So then I feel like that's the right play, maybe more so than the MTGO after the match. But yeah, I've really enjoyed that, and I feel like that's been a pretty helpful way. I sometimes get and this is maybe something that you could take, is that sometimes I feel like there's maybe too many cooks in the kitchen with the Discord, of like too many ways of thinking through the matchup. But I do think for the most part, like a lot of those people are going to have, at least for me, if as a newer potential player to Legacy, they're definitely have more reps than me. So any information that they have to give, I'm pretty excited to hear about it. Do you frequent the Discords a lot? Like, are you a lurker? Are you like are you a mod on the Reanimator
No,
Discord?
no. So I'm more of a lurker. I don't join a ton of Discords, but I am on a few. Especially like I used to be a very big Goblins player, so I'm on the Goblins
Okay.
Discord. And I tried finding the Reanimator one. I could not find it. Maybe I'm just new to Discord and I just don't understand. So if anyone knows the Reanimator, specifically the Turbo Reanimator, please send it my way. I will join it, and I would love to learn more.
Yeah, there's
But
gonna be
I-
a zero. There's 0% chance that doesn't exist, right? Like there
I know,
has to be.
I'm just an old fart now. I don't know. But I like what you're saying too, what you can get there. And a lot of these Discords, they have videos. And one thing that I think I kind of going along the same lines is when someone posts a video, especially on YouTube or again Discord, is watching it and seeing what you would do in those scenarios. And so a lot of times is they'll play through the match, and then if they're decide two options, pause it for a second and really think what you would do in that scenario.
Mm,
If the opponent, if the player, excuse me, if the player is much better than you, like let's say it's a pro player, 9 times out of 10 they're probably doing the correct choice. And so once they do the action, think of like, would I have done the same thing? If you didn't, reflect on why did the pro player make that decision when I did not? If it's a very good pro player, like Reed Duke is one of my favorites to watch, he will explain
Oh, yeah.
exactly why he is doing those decisions. And I think that makes him, an excellent educator for Magic and how to get better.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, and I feel like I've even seen some of those videos on, like I said, the Discords that I like. So there's one, and I love the video that this person put out. But they're a very good Death and Taxes player, right? And I'm a very mediocre Death and Taxes player. So they put a what's the play video, so like very short, and I loved it. It was like a black white Death and Taxes turn one Thoughtseize. He's like, this is their hand. I want you to pause this video and I want you to think about what you would take. And then so like you go ahead and do that, and then he's walking through. It's like, okay, they've got 7 hands, or sorry, a grip of 7 cards. 2 of them are lands. What are the 5 that you're going to take? And here's like the breakdown of each one. So I thought it was awesome. So yeah, I love that. And if more pro players are listening and they love the idea,
Please.
go ahead and make some more like what's the play type videos for us. That would be wonderful. Thanks, guys.
If you're a Reanimator player, you don't need that help. You're like, do I need to reanimate the Gristle brand or the Atraxa? Like, oh wait, both win. What am I doing? Like,
Embarrassment of riches. Yeah.
Right. No, I'm just kidding.
Um,
There's some lines.
Yeah. Well, and no, I mean, I think it's definitely like it definitely is challenging, especially like we've talked about Cabal therapies and like thought seizes of what to take, and that being a hard thing. So like seeing what people do. And I think that plays really well into, and this was a really cool take that you actually introduced me to. And that is the concept of knowing what is in your opponent's hand, essentially before you even see it, right? So before the
Exactly.
Thoughtseize even comes down, I loved your take of what has happened in the game so far, and based on what's happened, what's in their hand. Can you tell, like, because you explained it so well to me, you got to tell our listeners.
Perfect. So yeah, so this is our number 4. So again, it's knowing what's in your opponent's hand. And this is what I tried to explain to any new player, even experienced player. So every turn that goes on, even from turn 1, even before that of when they keep their 7 or 6, there is something in their hand that they enjoy. So let's just say, again, I'm playing from the perspective of a combo player. So Reanimator, and if you've never played against the deck, you put the creature in the graveyard and you reanimate it. Those are the 2 things that you do, and you hopefully win the game. So if my opponent, game 2, is keeping a hand of 7, do you know what's in their hand? It's going to be interaction to stop me. So they either have a force of will, or they have a way to interact with the graveyard. If they didn't, or like if they didn't have that, 9 times out of 10 they are going to mulligan their hand. And that's just something I have to keep in my mind. So again, if I see that, if I'm going against a blue deck and they have 7 cards in their hand, I am not going to just go for it. I'm not going to do the risky play of blindly trying to reanimate it. I need to see their hand first to strip out that interaction. And so that's one really important thing I think that happens even before the game starts, is understanding what is and what's not in my opponent's hand. And this continues, right? So every turn, let's say I'm going against Modern Burn is always one I used to use an example of. If you never played Burn, right, they have run like 8 creatures at the 1 CMC, so Goblin Guide and Monastery Swiftspear. And they also have a 2-drop, which is Eidolon. And guess what? If your opponent keeps 7 cards in your hand for Burn, if their turn 1 is not a creature, 9 times out of 10, you can guess what their turn 2 play is. It's going to be Eidolon, because the Burn deck, if they want to win, they're going to have a creature in the hand. And so you can play around that by deducing what they do and do not have in their hand. And I think just having that practice and having that mindset of just every single turn, just kind of guessing through it. And I even tell my opponents, like, you might even see me, Kyle, of just like, hey, you didn't do this, that means you have XYZ in your hand. And they kind of give you a look, or like, yes. And again, this is going to go to my next one, but you can kind of go off their body language of what they're doing. But yeah.
Oh, I love that. And honestly, I've like tried to start doing that more. So I was playing a friendly with a buddy of mine, and I was like thinking through that concept, right? And they were on like a green white kind of mid-range deck, and it was kind of a slow hand, right? So they played land pass, and I'm like, okay. And then they played land pass. I'm like, you either have these like removal, or you have like this banger, like,
or a board wipe.
If you're playing board wipe, yeah,
a deck that goes low to the ground,
absolutely right. So I was like, you have a board wipe, or I was like, you have removal, and you have Knight of the Reliquary. So I was like, I'm like, this person definitely has a Knight of the Reliquary. So I'm like watching their lands, and I like make a comment to them, and they're like, how did you know? I'm like, oh, my buddy Adam, I gotta introduce you to him, because he like helped me think through this. So I thought it was pretty cool. I was like impressing a buddy of mine by being like, oh, I know you've got this in your hand. So no, I love that, and I've been trying to use that as much as I possibly can. Even on, I think, MTGO, which is pretty fun, because you can't see, like, your take is, you get to see sometimes like opponents kind of give you some free information when you're like, oh, I think you probably have this, right? And they like, you can try to glean something off of their body language. But doing it in MTGO where you don't have that is just like, I think, also great.
Now you're already assuming something. You can definitely off of MTGO get some reads. And then next, number 5. Let's get into that.
Yeah, hit me with it.
All right. So number 5 is bringing poker into the Magic community world. So if you guys don't know, I am a huge poker enthusiast. Wrote a book about poker. I will share it later, or if you're interested, I can share it. But you can bring these outside games like poker to Magic. And so let me bring up a few of these. So poker reads, right? So just reading your opponent. Yes, it is very easy by looking at somebody in person to kind of understand where they're going. And I'm going to bring up one story and hope Brayden doesn't get mad at me for bringing up his name. But there was a match just a few weeks ago where he used, let's say, I needed a reanimation spell. So reanimate, Shallow Grave, etc. And I had a creature in the graveyard, and he was playing the Is It tempo list. So he bobbled the top card of my library, and he saw a card. His face went very, very sad, very quick, and his emotions just kind of dropped down. He showed a lot of expression about this. So clearly, I was like, "Wow, okay, so you're saying I have a reanimate spell on top of my list?" And he's, he kind of smiled. He's like, "No, well, I have a fetch land that I was going to surveil, but you know what? Now that I know this, you essentially gave me free information. I am not going to. Do you want to guess what the top card was? Yeah,
I don't
it
know.
was a
What was it?
reanimate. It was just a reanimate.
Yeah.
I just won the match right there. And so
Yeah.
that's where, trying to talk with you, and I hope nobody takes offense to this if I'm talking to you in a match, but I will talk to players and I will try to gather information based off of the reads. So again, just trying to guess names of cards in their hands, trying to see if they get happy or sad. The classic one you see with control players is they draw a card, they look immediately at their graveyard and go, "Oh, you have a Snapcaster in your hand." It's like, what else? There's nothing more
Right.
they can have. So that's the one thing, is just reading with them in person. But also, it can be true on MTGO. And so you see people's speed of play. So if you notice a person taking obviously a very long time, or they're kind of tapping their lands, you can kind of deduce that they have decisions to make. Well, if their option was very clear, then they would do it very fast. 9 times out of 10, right? They would do their actions very fast. If they have choices, you can deduce that, and that's why they're taking their time. And so you can also take advantage of this, again, as you get more experienced. You can kind of bluff what cards are in your hand. So I don't know if you've ever seen this, but if you are having a force effect, like force negation, let's say as an example, it would be like paying cost, and you see that paying cost on the side of MTGO. But
Yeah.
you know what? There are other spells that you can pay cost too. So like I'll bluff that I have a spell that's casting the cost, but then I take it back, or I tap 2 mana, but I really have nothing in my hand, and then I'll untap. Be like, okay, yeah, resolved. It's fine. Playing that speed and tapping things definitely gives you a small advantage to kind of bluff your opponents.
Interesting. I love that. That is a really cool.
Oh, it's awesome.
take.
I love
Especially,
that side of Magic and poker.
Yeah.
Listen, poker players know this, for they always will be watching you. So it's very important.
Oh my gosh. Well, now I know that I need to definitely work on my poker face next time we play. And I gotta, I don't know. I gotta try to mean mug a little bit and just be like, "Hey, you're not getting anything from me." Same expression. It doesn't matter what I'm pulling. So I gotta be better about that. Yeah.
And let me add too. So let me add something too, because the poker, there's more to than just that. So there's a lot of things I've gained from playing poker. Another rule is the 2% rule. And so if you've never played poker before, what is that? So in a deck of cards, right, there is roughly around 50 cards to a deck, 52 to be exact. Similar with Magic. An average deck has 60 cards, but after you draw your first 7 cards, there's 53 cards left in your deck. So just by rule 2, on average, just about rough, each of those cards has about 2% chance of drawing. So we call it the 2% rule because you can count the number of outs you have by multiplying by 2. So if I'm looking for a show and tell, right, a card that's going to win me the game on the spot, I can multiply. Well, I have 4 show and tell on my list. I have a 2% for each one. So that's an 8% chance I'm going to draw that card as my next card. And so you can use this to determine what is the best method of a victory, right? So it's also counting your outs. So do I choose the option of I have 4 show and tells left on my list, or I have 8 reanimation spells on my list that's going to hit it? What is my way out? Okay, now it's going to be pretty simple. It's the one with 8 outs, or a 16% chance of winning. And you can kind of use those small percentages to allow you to choose the correct path forward, and kind of understanding what's allow you to win. So that's a very popular thing you're going to hear in poker now in Magic.
Yeah, I love that. And I'm going to have to figure out how to do statistics and how to change that to an 80 card. Well, now I got to add however many. I got 80 cards in my deck.
Cards. You're one of those Yorion players, aren't you?
Because there's so many cards that I like where I'm like, I can't choose. I just throw all of them in, man. So
I love it.
No,
there's one I think you want to bring up too, right? Why don't you go into what you mentioned to me earlier?
Okay, so I do love the mindset of like the poker element, and I think this kind of like blends well into that poker mindset, which is kind of like changing the mindset as far as learning goes of learning your deck and actually improving. And that is changing your mindset from how am I playing to the win rate element, right? Now, you kind of talked about this from the poker standpoint of like, hey, statistically, it's probably right for me to make this play, right? Like statistically speaking, my opponent has an X% to have a hand that beats me, and it's probably pretty low, so therefore I should bet, right? I'm not much of a poker player. You wrote the book on it.
No, no, yeah.
I'll defer to you, but the idea being like, hey, I made the right call, right? I made the right bet based on the situation, and maybe I won, maybe I didn't win, but it's more about am I seeing the correct line and am I making the right play where as I go forward, I'll continue to make the right play. And as I continue to make the right play, eventually it's going to work out. Like sometimes we've said, yeah, the bad beat stories, and sometimes people, they just have the nuts and it's hard to beat. But I think when you look at it and say, okay, did I play well and did I make the right decisions? I think that's been a big thing that has helped me as I mean, I don't want to say like I'm brand new to Magic, obviously, but like as someone that's trying to become a little bit more competitive and kind of aspiring to that spike level, that's been a thing that I think has helped me a little bit more. And we've talked like after locals or after if I run like a league or a challenge and just say like, okay, what were the results? Okay, we went 3-3 in this challenge, or we went 3-1 in the locals, whatever. But how did I play? Right? Did I? And I've used this example, but did I keep kind of like a risky keep, like a bad hand? So I think of like, did I keep a one land Aether Vial against a control like against an opponent who definitely has days, definitely has force of
Right.
will, and I'm just sending it anyway, being like, yeah, let me keep like scrubland into Vial that could easily be wastelanded, right? And I keep that, and they happen to not have the force of will, they happen to not have the days, and somehow that leads me to winning, right? That would be an example of like, yes, did my win rate go up? Yeah, if I got the win there, but should I have kept that hand, right? And like I would look at
Yeah.
that and say like, hey, I probably shouldn't. Yes, that paid off for me, but I don't want to look at that and say, okay, we keep one land Vial hands because the one time I kept the one land Vial hand, I won. Like I don't think that's a correct thing. So looking at the mindset of like, okay, regardless of that win rate, am I playing well? Did I make the right decision? So I always appreciate like after our matches, after our leagues, you do this, and we've got some other really great people at our locals that kind of say like, what could you improve on? Like how do you feel like you did? And so I'll look back of like, what did I recruit for? What was my Stone Forge Mystic target? What did I blink with Thelia? Very Death and Taxes focused thing right there, right? But I think that could be applied to anybody of like, hey, what did you decide to do with this ponder turn one? Like, and I don't know. So to me, I feel like that's been a huge piece of changing my mindset of like controlling the things that I can control and being focused on making good decisions versus being mad if I go 1-3 or if I go 2. You know what I mean? Just
Right.
hey, I am I making the right decisions? Do you have any like? I know I'm kind of rambling on a little
No,
bit,
no,
but
it's good.
what's your take?
I think it's even more than just like I said. This kind of going to it's poker. It's honestly with life too. If you hear
Mm,
this a lot with your friends or like you see people in the outside world, and something happens to them, they can either just base it off of luck and kind of like, oh man, like this person got so lucky. This happened, this happened, this happened, and they don't look upon themselves and make the right choices. Like, what could you do differently? Like what control do you have to do the right outcome? And I think that's like a winning mindset of like looking back and not be results oriented is going to be really important in your life as well as in Magic.
yeah, yeah. Having that ownership of like, it wasn't it wasn't the bad beats of like, you know, oh, life had a really good hand, but like, okay, so taking ownership of what could we have done differently and what can we learn
Exactly.
from that. So yeah, man, I'm absolutely with you there. But all right, man. So before we wrap this up, I'm feeling pretty good about it. I'm curious. Now you and I have a couple of competitions coming up, some tournaments that we're working for.
Let
Of
me pause you
these.
right there because I don't think our audience knows all these tournaments.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Please. Okay,
So
let's.
I'm gonna make a big announcement for the one. So on June 27th, if I got that date correct, it's a Saturday at Larry's Game Store, and this is in Larry's Game Store in Olathe, Kansas. There's going to be a team trios event. If you've never done it before, it is an awesome time. I've done lots of them back in Ohio, but essentially there's going to be one seat is for Legacy, one seat is for Modern, and one seat, which was by very strong popular demand, is for Canadian Highlander. It is going to be 100% proxy free. So don't worry about not having the cards. You are allowed to proxy it. You just have to make sure that they're not noticeable when you're shuffling your list. We can talk with a judge if you have questions. Again, that is on June 27th at Larry's Game Store. Sign up. It is $40 per person. So it'd be $120 for the team. And so that is the first one. And then the
Yeah.
second one, which
And
I'm not
well, first of all,
TOing.
I get to we get to it's again. I love the fact that you said 100% proxy, right? So
Oh, yeah.
I get to print off all those candelabras that I've been wanting to.
If you never played
So
with Candelabra, this is your chance to
yeah, okay.
$15,000. Yeah. And yeah,
What's
so
the other one that we've got? Yeah,
the next one is in Oklahoma. So this is the Land Run. This one is a little bit farther away if you're outside of the Kansas region, but it's going to be Vintage, Legacy, and Modern. So both of these are that's going to be in July. Let me double check the
yeah. But another one of those team trios,
July
which I
10th
think
through
is
12th.
10th through 12th. But yeah, another one of those team trios, which is really cool. I love the idea of this, and glad that there's a couple of these events that have been popping up in our area. So I'm super
I'm so
excited.
excited for this because not only is like I think the Oklahoma River Land Run's gonna be fun, is like Kansas does not have a lot of big events. And I don't know if you noticed, I'm new to the Kansas area, and I'm like right away just trying to make these big events kind of popular. I want them to come. I want more big events to practice on. I want competitiveness. Back again, I'm from Ohio area. Every weekend there's a tournament, which is crazy. And then every like month and a half to 2 months, there's a very large tournament. And so that's where I really want to publish this and really get these known around the area.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm really excited. I'm glad that you're putting this together and again, kind of being the spearhead. So this is awesome. I'm excited, and then hopefully, some of our listeners kind of catch wind of this and we get one heck of a turnout. Maybe kind of bring this back, in a couple months. Then, if it's super successful, right?
Absolutely. And so kind of go to your original question, like, what are we doing for this? Me personally, I'm going to start the grind. And so I already have a
Yeah.
spreadsheet ready. I take a lot of detailed notes. I find the deck that I want. If you guys if you couldn't get it from this podcast, Reanimator is what I'm going to play. And I'm just going to have 100+ matches of the same deck. Maybe I'll tweak one card at a time. If you notice, I had shown Sneak Attack last weekend. I will practice it and practice and practice it to make sure I know everything about the matchups.
No, I that's awesome, and I think I am there as well. So I have been excited to kind of, like I said, new to MTGO, but man, I love being able to load up. My week has not been particularly busy, so I will be happy to jump into a couple of more leagues and try to get as many matches as I can. And especially, man, like the MTGO, like there's a lot of sharks out there. So like I know that I'm
If
playing
and-
against some dogs, right?
No,
Like,
absolutely. And this wasn't on our list, but just highlighting, like, you want to play against the best of the best. MTGO
yeah.
is how you can play players around the world to get better. It's obviously the local meta is great, and you can fine tune your list to the meta. But man, when you go
absolutely.
to Eternal Weekend, you are playing against the best players, the best decks, and that's what you need to expect.
Yeah, absolutely. But I mean, it's just so great. Like, I love the local scene here and just excited to get out. But
True.
sometimes I'm like, oh, there's not a legacy locals tonight, but I can always jump in online and
Best.
get like whenever I get the itch. So yeah, man, I'm excited to get those 100 decks. Sorry, 100 match grinds, and then maybe I'll ask to borrow Reanimator since I can't figure out how to beat it.
Yes, come
So
on.
yeah, yeah. So
Join the team.
oh man, we're already infecting a couple of other people, so I don't know.
It's
I,
beautiful.
I
There's
don't know
so
that
many players buying
I
Shallow
know.
Grave now. It's awesome.
It's crazy. It's crazy. But anyway, man, that I think is all we've got for you guys. Hopefully, you guys have taken these 5 tips and are going to be working on them as well. So, love to see you guys around the tables here for
And
these
if
upcoming
hey,
team
let me
trading.
add this. If any of
Yeah.
our listeners have their own thoughts of what they do or things that we like how we
Oh,
can get better,
absolutely.
please share
Absolutely.
it within the social media. We would love to hear it.
Absolutely. Well, thank you guys again for listening to the Legacy Scrublands podcast. We'll catch you guys next time.
Thank you.
I'm taking you out of the scrubbles.